Hi everyone, I'm Mario Carrasco, co-founder and principal of ThinkNow. Today I want to introduce a framework we call Diversity OS. The idea is simple, but important in markets like Los Angeles. Diversity is no longer just a demographic characteristic or a multicultural marketing consideration. It is the operating system shaping how consumers define themselves, how culture moves, how brands are evaluated, and how decisions are made. For insights leaders, this creates both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is that traditional segmentation models often do not capture the full complexity of multicultural consumers. The opportunity is that if we understand how diversity actually operates, we can generate sharper insights, stronger creative strategy, and more culturally relevant growth. For decades, marketers and researchers have relied on a familiar model. We define demographic groups, we segment them, we develop messages. Then we activate those messages through media. That model still has value, but it's no longer enough. In multicultural markets, consumers are not just moving through a funnel. They're moving through layers of identity, culture, influence, language, community, and representation. That's especially visible in Los Angeles. LA is not just a large, diverse market, it is a living preview where the US consumer market is going. In our World in One City research, 65% of LA County residents agree that Los Angeles sets trends for the rest of the country, and 52% agree that Los Angeles represents the future of the United States. That matters for Fortune 500 brands because LA is not just another DMA. It's a signal market. Cultural behaviors that start in places like LA often show up later in broader consumer culture, food, music, fashion, entertainment, sports fandom, digital culture, and language. So when we study Los Angeles, we're not studying LA, we're studying a market where the future is already visible. Here is the core idea. Diversity is not a segment. It is the operating system. When many marketers hear diversity, they still think about audience composition, language preference, casting, or community targeting. These are important, but they are only pieces of the system. Diversity also shapes how people see themselves, how they expect to be represented, how trends spread, and how they decide whether a brand feels relevant or credible. That is why we built the Diversity OS framework around 4 layers: identity, representation, influence, and decision. The first proof point is simple. When we asked LA County residents what best captures what Los Angeles represents to them personally, the top answer was everyday diversity. Language, culture, and food. 69% selected this theme. That ranked above sports and entertainment, street style, neighborhood life, creativity, luxury, celebrity, nature, and outdoors. So this is not a marketer's projection onto Los Angeles. This is how residents themselves describe the city. Diversity is not a layer on top of LA's identity. It is central to how the market understands itself. The Diversity OS framework organizes multicultural consumer behavior into 4 layers. First, identity, how people define themselves. Second, representation, how people expect to be seen by brands, media, and institutions. Third, influence, how culture spreads from communities into the broader market. And fourth, decision, how cultural relevance, authenticity, and trust affect choice. For insights leaders, the value of this framework is that it gives us a practical way to move beyond demographic description and into behavioral understanding. It helps us ask better questions, design better research, and produce insights that are more useful to brand, creative, and media teams. The first layer is identity. One of the mistakes marketers make is assuming that identity is fixed or singular, but consumers define themselves through multiple lenses: Geography, nationality, ethnicity, language, neighborhood, family, values, profession, fandom, and lifestyle can all matter depending on the context. In LA, someone may identify as Mexican American, Californian, Angelino, a Dodgers fan, a parent, a professional, and a global citizen, all at the same time. For insights teams, this means demographics are only a starting point. The deeper question is which identity is most relevant in a given category, moment, or decision. A financial services brand, a food brand, a healthcare brand, and a sports sponsor may all activate different layers of identity for the same consumer. The second layer is representation. This is where the data becomes especially important. 67% of LA County residents say it's important for brands to reflect Los Angeles' diversity in advertising. But only about 37% say they always or often feel accurately represented when LA is portrayed in advertising or media. That creates what we call the representation gap. The gap is not just about whether people appear in ads, it's about whether the portrayal feels accurate. Many brands have improved diverse casting, but consumers are asking for something deeper, lived reality, specifically community understanding, language nuance, and cultural truth. For insights leaders, this is a major opportunity. We can help brands move from representation as a creative assumption to representation as a measurable consumer expectation. We can see this shift in how major brands are approaching multicultural relevance. Nike, for example, has often used identity and culture tension as the emotional engine of its campaigns, not just simply casting decisions. P&G's work around body representation has emphasized not only who is on screen, but who creates and shapes the story. Toyota has spoken publicly about reaching transcultural mainstream audiences, which reflects a recognition that multicultural consumers are central to the mainstream, not separate from it. And McDonald's provides another example of how cultural relevance can extend beyond a campaign into media partnerships, community connection, and local market activation. The point is not that every brand has solved this. The point is that the most sophisticated marketers are treating representation as infrastructure, not as just decoration. The third layer is influence. Los Angeles is not just where diverse communities live. It's where cultural signals move from local to mainstream. Our research shows that 65% of residents agree LA sets trends for the rest of the country. Among those who say LA sets trends, residents point to entertainment, diversity, food, music, sports, fashion, and streetwear as areas where the city leads. For insights leaders, this matters because cultural influence is often visible before it's fully measurable in traditional tracking. By the time a trend shows up in the national syndicated data, the cultural signal may already be well underway. LA gives brands an early read on emerging behaviors, tastes, language, and identity cues. The fourth layer is decision. This is where Diversity OS connects directly to business outcomes in our research. 58% of LA County residents say local authenticity matters when choosing product or experiences. That tells us cultural relevance does not stop at brand perception. It can influence choice. Consumers are asking, does this brand understand where I live? Does it understand my community? Does it show up in a way that feels credible? Does it reflect the actual cultural context, or is it using generic cues? For Fortune 500 brands, this is especially important because scale can sometimes work against authenticity. The larger the brand, the more intentional it has to be about showing local and cultural fluency. So what does this mean for insights leaders? Well, the implication is clear. The role of insights is no longer only to describe audiences, it's to decode cultural systems. That means helping organizations understand how consumers define themselves, what accurate representation looks like, where cultural influence is moving, and what gives brands permissions to show up. This is a higher value role for research. It moves insights from validation to strategy, from reporting to interpretation. From data provider to cultural intelligence partner, that is where Diversity OS can be useful. Here's a simple diagnostic. First, identity. Do we understand how our consumers define themselves beyond demographics? Second, representation. Do consumers feel accurately seen by our brand, or are they relying on assumptions? Third, influence. Are we tracking the markets and communities shaping cultural trends before those trends become mainstream? Fourth, decision. Do we know what authenticity means in this specific market, category, and audience? If the answer to any of these is unclear, then the brand may be operating with an outdated model. This is where research can create immediate value. This matters even more. Los Angeles is entering a global spotlight moment. We just had the World Cup, going to have the Super Bowl, and the Olympics are coming. And this will bring international attention to the city over the next several years. But here's the important point. LA does not become multicultural during global events. It already is. The events simply amplify what is already true about the market. That is why this is the time for brands to understand the cultural operating system of Los Angeles and what it tells us about the future of consumer behavior. The takeaway is this: diversity is not a segment, it's the system. In Los Angeles, that system's already visible. It shapes identity, representation, influence, and decision-making. For marketers, that means the future of consumer behavior will require more than demographic targeting. It'll require cultural understanding. For insights leaders, there's a major opportunity to help brands see the market more clearly and act with more relevance. If you want to dig deeper into the data behind this framework, please download ThinkNow's World in One City report and explore what the Diversity OS framework means for your brand or agency. Thank you.